The Gulf of Mexico, nearly 600,000 square miles of warm, sparkling blue waters that stretch from Florida to Mexico, touching Cuba along the way. It's more than just a big patch of ocean. It's a force of nature, a historic trade route, a vital energy hub, and now the center of a heated political debate. You might know it as the Gulf of Mexico, but what if I told you that some people, including a recent US president, want to call it something else? Say hello to the Gulf of America controversy. Today, we're going to unpack this vast, complex, and downright fascinating body of water. We'll cover the jaw-dropping geography, the rich history, and the modern drama that's putting the Gulf in headlines for all the wrong, or maybe right, reasons. So grab a coffee or a compass, because we're diving deep. We're talking about 600,000 square miles. That's more than 1.5 million square kilometers. That's almost the size of Iran. Or if you're in the US, nearly 3 times the size of Texas. From east to west, the Gulf stretches about 1,100 miles. That's like driving from New York City to Orlando. North to south, roughly 800 miles. About the same as a road trip from Chicago down to New Orleans. And don't let the flat surface fool you. This place goes deep. The average depth is over 5,200 feet. That's a full mile underwater. But the deepest point? A spot called Sigsbee Deep. Depending on who you ask, it plunges between 14,000 and 17,000 feet. That's deeper than where the Titanic rests in the Atlantic. But here's the twist. Despite these wild depths, the Gulf of Mexico is incredibly flat overall. Why? Millions of years of sediment dumped in by major rivers like the Mississippi have filled in the contours like cake frosting. Nature's leveling tool. The Gulf of Mexico isn't just some random body of water tucked away between continents. It's a massive aquatic battleground with coastlines that tell stories of culture, commerce, and yes, competition. It borders 5 US states: Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. That's a serious stretch of land. 1,680 miles of American coastline, to be exact. But here's where things get interesting. Mexico, often overlooked in this coastal contest, actually has an even longer stretch along the Gulf. Its Gulf-facing coastline spans 1,743 miles, hugging everything from tropical beaches to industrial ports and fishing villages. And then there's Cuba, the Caribbean wildcard, adding another 236 miles of shoreline into the mix. When you do the math, it all adds up to an astonishing 3,659 miles of coastline encircling the Gulf. That's more than just numbers on a map. Imagine laying all that out in a straight line. It would stretch roughly from New York City to London, a literal transatlantic distance, just in curved beachfronts. But this isn't just about geography. Every inch of that coastline plays a role in global trade, tourism, fishing, oil drilling, hurricane defense, and environmental conservation. It's a coastline showdown where nature, industry, and history constantly collide. And the stakes are higher than you might think. The Gulf is somewhat isolated from the rest of the Ocean Club. It only connects to the Atlantic Ocean through the Straits of Florida and to the Caribbean Sea via the Yucatan Channel. That limited access means the Gulf doesn't get big tides. While oceans might rise and fall by 6 to 12 feet, the Gulf usually shifts by just 1 to 2 feet. Calm, cool, and collected. But economically? Oh, the Gulf is anything but calm. In 2019 alone, the US side of the Gulf produced nearly 700 million barrels of oil. Most of it pulled up from deep below the seafloor. That flat, shallow shelf and those deep pockets, they're oil and gas jackpots. But how did this watery powerhouse come to be? To understand the Gulf, we've got to rewind, like way back. Try 200 million years ago. Back then, the continents were smushed together in one massive supercontinent called Pangaea. Eventually, Pangaea started to crack apart like a dry cookie. As North America drifted away from South America, a rift formed, and that rift became the Gulf of Mexico. Over time, this basin filled in with water, sediment, and marine life. And over millions of years, the Mississippi and other rivers dumped so much material into it that the seabed literally flattened out. But the Gulf didn't stop changing. Underneath the sea floor, massive salt deposits continue to move around. These create strange underwater mountains and valleys, some of which are prime spots for oil and gas. And then there are the blue holes. Scattered across Florida's Gulf Coast are these mysterious deep sinkholes called blue holes. Think of them as underwater caves, leftovers from a time when sea levels were lower and these formations were above water. These blue holes are like time capsules. They preserve ancient layers of rock, plant life, even fossils. Some are thousands of feet deep and home to all kinds of rare marine creatures. To scientists, these are living laboratories. To fish, 5-star real estate. For centuries, this has been called the Gulf of Mexico. The name came from the Spanish colonial period when conquistadors used the Gulf as a water highway to reach the Aztec capital. Back then, Mexico referred to the land of the Mexica, what we now call Mexico City. Spanish explorers were constantly sailing across this massive body of water to get there. So naturally, it became the Gulf of Mexico. Simple, practical, and it stuck. Hard. Maps from as far back as the 1550s use the name. By the 1670s, even French Jesuits were labeling it Golfe de Mexique. It was official across languages and empires. And here's the kicker. This name has been recognized internationally for nearly 500 years, long before the United States existed, long before modern borders were drawn. But then, January 7th, 2025, happened. Enter the controversy. On that day, President-elect Donald Trump stepped in front of reporters and declared, "We're going to change it. It's the Gulf of America now. We do most of the work there, and it's ours." Boom. And just like that, the name was under fire. Trump signed an executive order to rename it, the logic being the US drills the most oil, maintains the most rigs, and patrols the most water. So why not put America's name on it? But hold on, can you even do that? Well, yes and no. Yes, if we're talking about how the US government refers to it in official documents. No, if we're talking about the rest of the world. Mexico, Cuba, and international organizations like the International Hydrographic Organization still call it the Gulf of Mexico. They're not obligated to follow US renaming efforts. So really, it's a unilateral move. One country's decision to call it something else. And it's not without precedent. The Persian Gulf is called the Arabian Gulf by some nations. The Sea of Japan? South Korea calls it the East Sea. Names of bodies of water have always carried political baggage. But trying to change a name that's been universally used for 5 centuries, that's a steep hill to climb. What's really at stake? Beyond the politics and press conferences, let's not forget what this place really is. It's a living, breathing ecosystem, home to thousands of species. From tiny plankton to giant whales. It's the nursery ground for shrimp, the hunting ground for sharks, and the migration route for sea turtles. It's also a climate regulator. The Gulf affects weather patterns across North America, fuels hurricanes, and plays a huge role in global ocean circulation. Its rivers, like the Mississippi and the Rio Grande, feed it with nutrients, shaping deltas and wetlands that support everything from fisheries to bird sanctuaries. Whether you call it the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, this is one of the most vital marine environments on the planet. Should it stay in the Gulf of Mexico? Or should America stamp its name on this oceanic giant? Whatever your take, one thing is clear: the Gulf's story isn't just written in history books. It's still being written right now, in the headlines, on maps, and deep below the waves. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the past, present, and possible future of one of the world's most important bodies of water. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into Earth's greatest wonders. Thanks for watching.